Greetings, everyone. It's your girl, Adina, and we have tea time with the incredible Maki Roll. Yes, Maki Roll official. And what is this all about? Well, this is about chic, geek, sexy, burlesque. Our feminine fire, belly dancers of color, feminine fire that we're having this Friday, November 1st, featuring the incredible Maki Roll. Maki Roll, how you doing, girl?
Hi, I'm doing really, really well. This is what is known as the Showgirl Christmas because it's October, and that is when the ghouls come out. So that's when we get to do all of our creepy and spooky and sultry, haunting acts. So I've been doing a lot of that this week. So
you've been sultrying and creeperying and
a little witchy.
A little witchy. Now, I love witchy. I love witchy because it's magical. Not witchy from the scary sense, but witchy from the magical sense. That is my personal jam. So I'm excited. And when you think of women and our bodies and owning our freedom and our sensuality, that's magical. That is magic. And Absolutely. We get to decide what we do with it and all of that. So let's back up before we jump all into what burlesque is. And let's talk about you, Maki. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for many, many, many moons. But a lot of the people who will be watching us may not know you and know your story. But tell a little bit about who you are, how you came to create Maki Roll as a character, and, what they are going to experience from just spending some time with you on Friday.
Yes. So, my name is Maki Roll. I go by the highly melanated mega geek of your multiverse, or the doll-faced gremlin. And I first got started in just creative outlet, actually, from just watching my mother. Just decorate during the holidays and just make all of these homemade crafts. And specifically around Halloween time, actually, we always had homemade costumes. Like our costumes were always made from scratch and they looked good because my mama knew how to sew. And she passed that on to me. As I grew older and nerdier, I discovered conventions, anime conventions, and then I discovered that you could dress up as characters at these conventions. And so I begged my mom, and finally she was like, all right, I will teach you how to do this. And I never looked back from there. So I've been going to conventions for a very long time. I've been... through conventions, I discovered that there was a whole world called burlesque, and then there was nerdlesque, which is nerdy burlesque, which to me, I was like, wow, these are like everything that I like all at once. You get the cosplay, you get what I didn't know at the time was this beautiful creative outlet to just express who you are and just be a little silly, be a little weird, but also be a little sexy and a little sultry as well. And so through that, I have been producing my own shows. I have been guesting at conventions and spreading the good word of nerdlesque and just burlesque and positive movement and positive body expression. So when you come to a class with me, you're going to get a lot of energy. You're going to get a lot of nerdy references, but it's okay. They're all going to make sense. I promise. And you're going to have a good time. And I can promise you that no matter who you are, this class is for you.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Now talk to me about nerdlesque. Like, how does your nerd express herself? Like, what does that look like? When you said a little nerdy, a little sexy, you went to these conventions and you were like, oh, these are my people.
Yes. Yes. I've been going to anime conventions, Comic Cons since I was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
And I never stopped. I'm in my 30s now, and as I said, I have done everything that there is to do. I've been a fan. I have booth babed at tables. I've been a judge for cosplay competitions. I've helped run the cosplay competitions. I've been a volunteer.
Mhm.
And discovering burlesque and discovering this other portion of the nerdy, I would say the nerdy die, was something that I didn't really know was possible, because even in these cosplays, I was still being a character, but it really wasn't my character. And so I feel Maki role is very much an extension of myself, but she's kind of the superhero version of myself. So she is everything that I want to do maxed out to 1,000.
Wow.
And when I am in my Maki role mode, I've been told by people that I just go into a different realm. And I like to see that in other people. And that is one of the reasons why I love producing. I love just seeing people in spaces where everybody speaks the same base language of being a nerd, or of, being a belly dancer, being a movement maker. So just seeing how people come alive once they are exposed to a space or something that they didn't know exist, or they knew exist, but they needed more of.
Mm-hmm. That sounds amazing. You mentioned other characters too. You mentioned the doll face gremlin as how does she differ from Maki role? Like, who is she?
So the doll-faced gremlin is actually a moniker that I have recently taken on,
Okay.
as I do more of my kind of daring performances. So I recently debuted an act where I lay on a bed of nails, and I do a lot of what I would normally do in burlesque, except for I'm on this bed of nails.
Oh, wow.
And so I like to challenge myself, and not only myself as an artist, but in my acts, I like to see how much I can level up. And that's like kind of harkening back to video games, or even Pokemon, even as Pokemon have like their first evolution, their second evolution, and then their final form. I always like to think of my performance art and even my production that way, as something that is constantly leveling up. So in this year, I lost my mother. So a lot of my art had to be refocused, and a lot of where I put my energy especially had to be refocused. And so a lot of this year was me rediscovering who I was as an artist, and being reminded in big ways and small ways of how my own personal communities are impacted by what I do, who I am. And yeah, I just always look at myself, whether I am the doll face gremlin, whether I'm the highly melanated mega geek of your multiverse, or if I'm just Maki role, I always kind of look at myself as this like constantly leveling character. Like, this isn't even my final form.
Ashe, I love that. Not even your final form. Let me give heartfelt condolences in the passing of your beloved mom. I know that is something that touches your life and your art really you're forever changed by that. So just condolences in that, sis, and happy to have you here as a part of your healing. That's how I see the dance as a part of your healing, and how you say you're not even in your final form. None of us are. So if we understand that and use even the grief as fuel for what we create, how do you do that? How has that impacted you? And you don't have to speak just on your mom, but just in general, things that happen to you in your life. How do you use those things to create beautiful art?
Thank you for asking that question. That's a very thoughtful question. Um, and a question that I have constantly asked myself this year, especially because I was working on a piece at the time of my mother's passing. So a lot of my creative process was halted just in having to deal with that and having to let that kind of go through me. But also in that same week, I had a show that I was producing, and it was a show that my mom was going to come to, and I know she would have wanted me to do. And so through that, or rather, not even through the grief, but as the grief was, freshly washing over me, I did this show, and it was one of the most, I would say, cathartic things, but also one of the hardest things that I've ever done as an artist, as a leader, as a human being. But it also showed me that I can create beautiful things, and I can still, do this. And although it has had to slow significantly, and although this year, there are some of the things that were in the plans definitely were no longer in the plans. It has been a testament to how I pivot, and how I restructure and refocus. And so that same act that I was working on for my mother, I got an opportunity to debut as a headliner at a festival. Shout out to North Star Nerdless Festival.
Awesome.
And I got to debut that act and dedicate it to my mother, and also dedicated to Akira Toriyama, who created Dragon Ball Z, who the whole thing was based on. My mother and I used to watch Dragon Ball Z together. So everything that I am and who I am, even as a nerd, as a person, as a leader, as a creative, is all because of her. And so when I create, and when I do what I do now, it is all in, I mean, it was all in thanks to her before, but it is imbued with her spirit even more than before. And even though this has been one of the hardest years of my life, it has also been one of the most healing and affirming years in terms of coming, I would say, releasing certain aspects of myself for the sake of me, but also for the sake of coming back to my art and my healing space. So just having the ability, and just having the support of my community, having the support of my family to take breaks when I needed, having the grace to mess up a little bit, or not even come all the way correct, and having the grace of my community for them to be like, hey, it is okay. You have done a lot, and this is hard, and we understand. So all of that has really strengthened, I would say, my love for my art, and also the love that I have for the community that I've created through my art.
Okay, thank you. I think it's really amazing how you heal as you're still doing your art. Like, you didn't close yourself up in a closet. You use your art as a part of your process, and you still do. And so that's really a beautiful example to others of how to utilize the things that you love, even as you're traversing through life. So thank you for sharing that. Now, as we talk about burlesque, people have different ideas about burlesque, just like they do about belly dance. In our society where sexuality and our bodies have been almost, I won't say demonized, but just looked at it in a way that, oh, you shouldn't do that, or that's not right. Like people get in a whole headspace of what's right and what's wrong to do with our own bodies. It's like, okay, you can choose what to do with yours, but this is my body. And I get to just determine how I express with my physical form. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So
that was me agreeing.
oh, that's the agree.
That was
Oh, I
my
like
little
agree,
yes.
agree. Okay, got
Yes.
it. So when you see me and my expression is making you feel uncomfortable, this is what I've come to realize, that me being free is making folks who are not free, they want it, but they're uncomfortable. And so instead of joining us, then they throw arrows. But we're saying, join us, please join us. So burlesque, even a little more edgy than what they think belly dance is, because burlesque, you're actually just robing and you're bearing aspects of your body that you decide that you want to share in this piece. So talk about how burlesque is different and maybe similar to quote unquote stripping. And then what I'd heard about burlesque is it always had a message. I'd taken a burlesque class before, and the sister who taught that class, and they were Brown Girl Burlesque out of New York. I don't know if you know them. Chicago
Yeah.
Honey Child and those folks.
Yes.
Yes.
Legends.
Right. So you know what I'm talking about. So I took her class. It was a lot of fun. So talk about the difference between just straight stripping and then burlesque, and then, that kind of freedom in your body. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So there are definitely ways in which burlesque and stripping and exotic dancing intertwine. And then there are ways that they differ. There certainly with the rise of neo burlesque, which is kind of an offshoot of classic burlesque, where there's more elements of other styles of burlesque than the classic striptease elements, which would be your shimmies and your body rolls. There's more jazz. There's more, I would say, whatever you want to incorporate into neo burlesque. And so a lot of performers will incorporate exotic dance moves into their burlesque performance. And I would say one of the number one things that is a difference is that we don't get paid as much. However, we do curate the space in a way where it is built to empower who we are. And that is not to say that a strip club does not empower the dancer. That's in you to empower yourself. What I'm saying is that the environment, the stage that is built, it is built with our gaze in mind. We have an audience, and yes, our audience is there for us, but this stage is usually and it really varies. It varies really on, there are levels to burlesque just as there are levels to anything, but commonly a burlesque show is produced by a woman. So you are going to have some extra care in how we are presented. For example, we tend to want to be hyped up, and we get grandiose intros before we go in. We are built up to be adored for the story we tell, and that is not predicated upon how much we take off. Mm-hmm. So in burlesque, you are allowed to, the art of the tease is that you are allowed to strip off as little or as much as you want, and how you tease it out is what is the story that you're trying to tell. So how much you want to do to entice the audience is on you. And I find that that is one of the most valuable things to me in burlesque, is that I get that extra autonomy to tell whatever story I want to tell, even if my story is I just want to do a slow burn where I am just slowly disrobing out of one singular thing. Um, I get the power to do that, and nobody is telling me take it off. Nobody is. I'm not, you know, dancing up on somebody to get a dollar. Not to say that again, that's a bad thing, and that is something that is actually a part of burlesque now, is tip culture, and that came directly from strip culture. So a lot of the ways that we do make more money come directly from strip culture. So a lot of the stuff that we do to keep ourselves safe, but also to ensure that we get the most money possible, we actually have learned from stripping.
Wow, that's amazing. One thing I love about what you said just now, Maki, because when I'm teaching belly dance too, I'm always talking about the story and how important the story is. How do you teach your students to develop a story, especially, mostly when I see burlesque, it's solos. I rarely see burlesque danced in groups. So that means an individual is telling a story, but they got to know what they're trying to say. It's not like I'm just up here shaking my booty just to shake it. I'm shaking it because I'm saying something. My booty has a story. So how do you help people get their stories out?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. And I actually teach burlesque in pillars. So I have 6 pillars of burlesque, and when I'm teaching story, I like to teach people that there is a time limit to what we are doing. So, in curating your story, you want to make sure that you are leaving room for that story to air and breathe. So, a lot of times, especially with newer burlesque performers, they get into this mindset that you have to move, and you have to be in like constant movement to make up for the fact that there aren't clothes constantly being taken off. However, and it's very, very funny, going back to the concept of nerdless, I like to tell people to think of it as The Rock. Everybody knows who The Rock is, Dwayne Johnson. Think of him walking down that long wrestling ring. Think of that long walk that he has to take to the ring, and think of how he is just walking, and he is just smooth, and he is just calm, and everybody is hanging on his every walk, just the way that he is walking, and he is telling a story just in that walk, and he is giving himself that air to breathe before he even says a word. And so I always like to remind people that in telling your story, it is okay to want to, and especially in nerdless, most of the time you already have a character that has their own story. So you have to decide where you inject a little bit of yourself into the story and what specific piece you want to tell, because you can't tell it all. And especially in 5 minutes, being generous, giving you 6 to 7 minutes, you can't tell it all. And sometimes you get lost in telling all of it. So pick a piece that you can inject some of yourself into, and give yourself time to breathe, and give that story time to marinate with the audience.
I love that. I love that. And so Maki Rowe will be with us, Belly Dancers of Color, this Friday, November 1st, and we will be doing a master class with this master. Tell them what they can expect. So we have from 7 to 10 on Friday. The doors will lock at 7 o'clock because we can't be going in and out when we got burlesque stuff happening, burlesque or whatever. So I'm going to advise folks to be there on time so you can get the full benefit of what's happening with Maki Roll. But give them just a teaser or a taste of how to prepare for our festivities for this Feminine Fire Friday with Maki Roll, burlesque, chic, geek, sexy.
Yes. First of all, if you have a cute or sexy costume that you want to wear, especially if it has layers, I invite you to wear your costume. As I said, this is a judgment-free zone. I will personally be wearing a cute and layered ensemble for you all. So please feel free to come in a costume. You can also not come in a costume. Just wear something comfortable that you can move in. We're going to learn a little bit about the history of burlesque and nerdy burlesque specifically, because there is some really, really juicy and fun history there that I love to give context to so that we know a little bit about what we're doing. And then we are going to be moving. So I'm going to be giving you some foundational burlesque moves that you can use to unlock your own nerdy, sultry superhero. And then we're going to be doing some movement prompts based around some of my favorite characters, just to get you all into the groove of becoming someone else, so that when you step into your persona, it'll be like a Sailor Moon transformation where you just go moon, prism, burlesque power, and then boom, like you.
I love it.
Yes.
Love it. It's going to be so much fun. I'm thinking through the costume. Like you just said, like I had one idea, but it needs to be in layers so you can stretch it out. So I got to think that through some more, how that's going to work. But
think about if you got some gloves, if you got some like nice thigh highs or like some nice boots.
So look, sound like a shopping. Like I need to hit Amazon
and I will also have some tings for you all to use. I will have some props. I will have some gloves.
Okay.
So
I will come. Try. Okay.
I stay ready. So we'll
stay ready. She stay ready. So for the things that we don't have, Maki will have some things for us to play with. If you have some extra gloves and some things like that for boas and feathers and fans, by all means, bring those things. We're going to have a raring good time with girls playing in our sexiness and pumping each other up. I'm so excited for where this will go. I am so excited. So
I'm excited too.
Yes. Feminine Fire Friday. We're in Lanham, Maryland at Dragon Academy, Belly Dancers of Color with Maki Roll. Please join us. We'll have all of the information below this video so that you can, of course, buy your ticket and come on through. Space is limited, so don't miss it. Don't miss it. Maki, do you want to tell the people anything before we go?
Yes, I would just like to say that I host a monthly show at DC Brow Brewery. If you are ever curious as to what a live nerdlesque experience looks like, DC Brow Brewery, DC Browlesque. Our next show is December 21st, and that is our Snowed In show. So that is all of our performers from this year. They make their return to the stage. So it's a big extravaganza. It's a grab bag of fun. You never know what you're going to get. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram. I am at Maki Roll Official. And through there, you can find everything that I am up to.
Awesome. Please do send me the link and I will share that in the description as well. That sounds like a barrel of fun. I plan to be there in the number on December 21st. That sounds amazing. So again, I want to say thank you. I look forward to dancing with you, burlesquing with you this Friday, November 1st. And this is just the beginning for what we can create from here. So Maki, thank you. Much love, honey.
Thank you, and enjoy
All
the
right.
rest of your night.
Yes, I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye.